in the mountains of the Pyrenees. There lives a creature unlike any other. Scaling mountains, crashing down rivers, and devouring the rocky trail. Men from across the world, across all ages and abilities, come together to fight the elements, conquer their fears, and prove that they have what it takes to become a lion of the Pyrenees. It's day one, and we're in Barcelona, and we've arrived ahead of the pack to meet up with the leader of the Lions, Antonio Irastorza.
Perfect. Oh, here he is. We found you. Come in. Can you to connect the cable to connect the...
The Lions of the Pyrenees is a group of friends that we go every year to the Pyrenees to be away from our normal activities, from the family, from work, with the idea of resting, finding ourselves, and coming back with new enthusiasm, having rested or physically rested, mentally rested, but not physically exhausted.
And there's not much time to sit about, as he's anxiously awaiting the arrival of his fellow Lions.
Somebody comes from Russia, Moldova. These people make a great effort to come here. Also the people coming from America, from Austria, from different parts of Britain and also different parts of Spain.
The first year, there were 3 of us. The second year, I don't remember exactly, 7 or 8. He has grown. And for the last few years, I have the difficulty of keeping the numbers down.
And this year is the biggest yet, with Antonio expecting 32 arrivals from across 4 continents, all touching down this morning at Barcelona Airport. And he's having problems finding them. But it's not long before his men appear, arriving bit by bit, starting with some familiar faces.
Every year I get older, and each year there's new people coming in that are in their 20s. It gets harder and harder to keep up. This is a huge trip of 32, 33 people. It's like mobilizing a battalion. The years that I started going, it was 9, 10, 12, 13 people. I'm looking forward to giving Antonio a hard time because that seems to be one of my primary responsibilities when he invites me on this trip. He's going to get it already this afternoon because he's asked me to stand up as the weatherman, which is another one of my jobs, and do a stand-up comic routine. And I'm thinking, okay, how do I turn this to my advantage?
And as the early arrivals catch up, another plane arrives. This one from the Republic of Moldova.
It's a pleasure to see you, Alex.
Every year I very much look forward to this expedition. This is the time when it starts again. I'm really excited, and we'll go from here.
And they're off. With the rest of the group arriving via alternative routes, it's time to get to the vans and do a quick head count.
It is logistically quite difficult to move 40 people.
Yes, he's coming. He's there.
So there have to be enough drivers, enough doctors, enough first aid. So it is a logistic sort of a bit nightmare to organize this.
At the beginning it appears to be very chaotic, no? Because as we are arriving in about 18 flights, a number of people have sort of either 1 or 2 have missed the plane and take another one, or the cancellations of 1 or 2 planes, the delays of others.
But it's not going to hold up the schedule as we near back where we started, at IESE Business School.
So all this area on both sides is IESE in different buildings.
IESE is a business school. It's one of the most prestigious business schools in the rankings of the Financial Times.
And it seems like Antonio is a big name on the campus, as he greets his Lions, anxiously awaiting their first challenge.
The first day, some talks on values, on leadership, on a case study.
That one step at a time approach.
But before they get to work, first things first. Antonio wants to put his men through a quick drill to see where they're currently at.
Okay.
And he's keeping up himself.
Yeah, I thought it was great. It's always exhausting after getting up early and stuff, but really valuable.
We're gonna spend 3 days in the Pyrenees doing a lot of sports, and I think it's very important to apply what we have learned about planning, doing good planning, knowing the routes for the team to trust in the leader and knowing what will be the way to get to the summit.
Buenas tardes. Hello. We are just in time, yeah? According to plan. Hopefully leave in 5 minutes.
It's time for the groups to make their way to the vans, find their seat, and head to the mountains.
People want to know which vans they are going to. Do you mind not driving, just telling people where they have to go?
And as you'd expect, every seat is pre-allocated, meticulously thought out, with little room for error.
There's some confusion here. Jaime.
But it seems now we're running a few minutes late.
I like people who are critical, no? Because when you think everything is great, you have to say, how can I improve? Even if things go on more or less, it's always so. I prefer this topic for the discussion.
By the way, Antonio, the last talk was phenomenal.
Yes.
The first was very boring.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Oh my Lord, I was about to sleep.
Sometimes people come with the idea this is going to be a break, that is why sometimes the youngest of all are really one who suffer most because they haven't trained and you are not used to do 7 to 10 hours of exercise for 4 days because maybe the first day is fine, the second day everything aches, the third day you cannot get out of bed.
And it's not long before the foothills of the Pyrenees come into view.
We are now arriving. Are we the first ones, Jaume, or the...
And with that comes new challenges. Unloading the vans.
At the entrance, by the door.
And finding beds for all 32 men.
You know, every general has their aide-de-camp. Who's your aide-de-camp?
Well, maybe you can help me. I need more than one. So let's...
Buenos dias. It's day 2, and the lions are up nice and early for a briefing over breakfast.
So this is my 19th trip, and in a row, I have not missed one. My advice is to make friends with everyone and just enjoy being here.
Thank you, Alistair.
The first day is the discovery of a beautiful landscape. You are really motivated to go there because you've been looking, you have heard so many stories. Photographs have been circulated. You have been shown videos from the previous years. So the first day, I think it's exciting.
Exciting it may seem for Antonio, but this is no walk in the park, as the lions prepare for the first challenge. Hiking to the Irastorza mountains, navigating through death-defying ridges, and trawling through ice and snow to the peaks at over 2,000 meters.
So as we are 4 teams, we will start from the 4 different valleys, and the idea is with the GPS, we will meet in a particular place, we exchange the keys, and we will return in different locations. So that is why everybody has a different route, and it's very important that we meet at the agreed point, because it's not easy to go over 2,000 meters in these mountains.
With the pack on their way to the foothills, designated driver and lion veteran Scott warns about the upcoming conditions.
This is considered a highway compared to some of the roads we're going to be on. We get full coverage on these vans because the rental car companies don't know what hit them when we return the vans.
But it's too late to turn back now, as the groups arrive to meet their guides. And it looks like they have their work cut out.
Just get into the van, because they'll do it. Get into the van, get into the van.
And with the vans heading upwards, Antonio warns about the upcoming risks.
My greatest fear is that they haven't got the right equipment, so they will suffer.
And it's not long before the driver pulls off the main road and approaches the mountain trail.
You see, there's very clear water. It's a beautiful water, eh?
And the lions get their first taste of the mountains. And the rocky trail. But before they can even get started, they're stuck. The washed-out road has brought the van to a standstill.
The roads that we drive are very narrow, mountain roads, sometimes bad, and sometimes we are really big cliffs coming down. Sometimes we are really quite afraid of on this, but sometimes you have to reverse in a very narrow, because the road is close, and it's not easy to reverse in a narrow road by the cliff.
But that doesn't worry Antonio, who's focused on other things.
Yeah, Antonio has been talking a lot about finding some snow. So the guide has been, very kind of gently and courteously saying that we, probably will not find any. But Antonio is persisting. So.
The conditions can change a lot. I mean, some years there's a lot of snow. I mean, 2 years ago, it was snowing. As we arrived there, the conditions had changed. The temperature was below zero. I mean, we were very strict about who could go there, what you need crampons, or you needed. Suddenly, people realized they didn't have gaiters. I mean, and then you have to drop some of these people. So sometimes, when the conditions are bad, this is when you realize that you should have obeyed the instructions that repeatedly have been given to you. Well, we are in the process of just preparing to start in the ascent, and this group of 9 of us are going through, headed by an experienced mountain guide called Edu. We are going, hopefully, to the ice. It has in principle, it's a good day for climbing, maybe a bit too hot, depending, so we need to be careful not to burn. Remember, Kevin and all of us, to put cream on the back of the neck as well. It gets burned easily.
And they're off, with the lines relaxing into the trail and enjoying the clear skies of a crisp Pyrenean day.
The landscape of the Pyrenees is a beautiful, in a way, very varied, because you have, as mountains. The highest mountain, I think, is about 3,400 meters, the Aneto peak. But they are very, like the Alps, very sort of wild, very much of a peak, both in the Spanish side and the French side. They're beautiful. They are normally, even in May, they're covered in snow. There's normally snows. I mean, every year we have snow throughout. The weather changes from snow to rain to hail to sun.
And prepared for all conditions is one particular lion who's getting a little hot and bothered.
I was having the double layer, the thermal things inside, and I was boiling. I was reaching kind of prohibited temperatures.
And it's the unforeseeable sunshine that's created some heated discussion among the pack.
Antonio sent me emails, 3 or 4 emails in last week, telling me that I was going to have to stand up and both guarantee the weather, but also talk about the danger. He really wants people to know about the danger. The weather job is an incredibly important job, but every job is very important to Antonio. Yeah, and now with the change of climate and making it a little bit more difficult to get to the snow, now the guides are responsible. They're at fault that we're not actually in the snowfield right now. Thank you.
And they're off again, several stones lighter and with fresh determination to reach the top.
Most of us work in cities, going to nature, to the wild, to see the limitations that you have suddenly a tremendous storm, water, the power of that river, the snow. Really, it makes you feel small compared with nature.
And 3 hours into the trek, the pack are showing signs of tiring. And with the altitude rising, the climate drops. Suddenly, the enormity of the climb begins to settle in.
I wouldn't say it's a typical lion. I mean, I would say somebody has to like sporting activity, challenges. I mean, we have all kinds of people who have come, but you need to be ready to suffer a bit. You have to, if you have, that's why in common, I would say, a number of them had been to the special forces. Some of them were in the SAS, the British SAS, or the Belgian SAS, or the Foreign Legion, or some elite groups. Or sport, they are very much sporty characters.
And as the lions reach the tree line, the dangers of falling or slipping off the path become a frightening possibility. Fortunately, there's good news on the horizon.
Antonio! Snow!
The lions have reached snow, which signals the end of the hiking path and the beginning of their ascent.
2 legs and 1 pull, okay?
From here on, the group will need to navigate on top of deep snow, prone to collapsing, causing serious injury and even burying previous climbers.
Some years really particularly difficult, challenging, exhausting, people falling, rescuing someone in difficult situation. But I mean, you can skid, you can cut yourself, you can knock yourself there. When you fall in a mountain, you can break a leg easily, you can break an arm, so because you skid in the ice. When we do mountaineering also, there is avalanche in the period where there is a lot of snow, which is melting with the rocks, and we have seen some tremendous avalanches, so which is really, thank God we haven't had, but sometimes we have to really move away from falling rocks or pieces of wood.
But as the lions near the summit, focus begins to slide as exhaustion creeps in. A mistake up here could result in serious injury.
I have seen some accidents, thank God not fatal, but due to the fact of not obeying the lines, and I have seen this, I don't know, 4 or 5 times this has happened. So I'm concerned that if that was to happen, in a way I'm to be blamed.
After 5 arduous hours of climbing, the lions have reached their peak. And with the two groups coming together at the meeting point, they swap keys and take a minute of respite to enjoy the wondrous views.
Today is very clear, we have beautiful view. People are motivated, so we haven't suffered any dropouts, so we haven't sort of abandoned anybody, so we're doing well.
Quite an unexpected degree of difficulty for me as first time. How we got there? Well, it is a miracle, I guess, but we managed it thanks to the help of the other guys.
I'm now here very proud of these views, the challenge that I've faced and I've overcome.
But before the men get too comfy, it's time to begin the descent, a particularly difficult part of the challenge.
We have just changed the keys, so we are going now back in a different destination where the other van is waiting for us, and we just gave the keys to the other one, and basically this is allows you to see 2 valleys. No? We are going to San Jose de Plan Valley.
And when it's finally time to leave, Antonio begins to gather his troops, unfortunately finding it difficult to move them.
Angelo, are you all right?
I'm all right.
Let's go.
No.
Please.
No.
But it's a bit of going up.
You don't feel great when you reach top of the mountain because you have thinking of going back. I mean, sometimes the difficult thing is just going down these boulders, stones. You have another 5 hours of this hell, I mean, in the middle of the snow or pouring down with rain. So you only celebrate, hopefully, when you go to the van, and I would say if you are soaked, or normally is the case, when you go home and you can get your clothes off and have a shower. I mean, I think the celebration is in the shower when people start singing or ringing their wives saying, I'm still alive, I'm here, instead of from this remote place, I'm there with you.
9 exhausting hours after beginning their climb, the lions reach their vans, and the group's in good spirits as they prepare for an evening of toasting their success. And as is customary in the lions, an evening of fine wines and stories unfolds as the pack prepare mentally for the coming challenges. It's day 3, and all's quiet around the lion's den.
As a child, I always liked down the mountains. I've been going since I was, 12, 14 to the mountains. So I've been to many of the mountains in Spain. And when I started going to the Pyrenees and high mountains, I always learned by the experienced people or the guides that you have to go up early.
And according to the captain, it's time to get up as the designated alarm clocks go from door to door, waking up the sleepy lions.
So it was very common to get up at sort of 3, 4 in the morning, having a very quick breakfast and start walking to the mountain when it was dark to be able to crown that mountain when it was sunrise. Maybe there was 9, 10, so early when they're still very cool and fresh and the sun was not hot.
We've just been given our marching orders. We've got to go. We have a guide apparently who's a little bit fiery and has quite a quick temper.
And there's a little added confusion this morning as Antonio sends some teams water rafting and others canyoning.
And Antonio is a little bit frantic, per usual. He went on a little discursive tangent during breakfast and then told everybody, get in the van, we got to get going.
You don't need to go into the town as you come in.
Yeah, I know where it is.
I'm driving one of the vans. I'm driving a van with a flat tire that's been repaired, so we're driving without a spare. So hopefully nothing will happen.
People are concerned because people who have done this before, they know there's some dangers in this, both canyoning and rafting. So that is why the nervousness, people get a bit excited. Some have not slept, 1 or 2. Alberto, I'm sorry. But this is just, we need to adapt to change. So anyway, people are nervous. People who have not done it before, they are scared, some of them, but I think this is a safe if you go with a guide, not if you go on your own. So it is fine.
There's a Spanish proverb that I always like, is that the person who rises early, God helps.
And they're off again and heading for white water. But this morning, luck isn't on their side, and they have to make an emergency stop.
We just leave them, we don't want to stay here.
The team needs to replace a damaged tyre. And with the narrow, rocky roads ahead, it's essential that the group has the best chance of staying on the road. And Antonio is taking no chances.
These unexpected events occur all the time. It's not a puncture, it's some engine problem. And now we are lucky that the puncture was not bad and the man can repair in the next 20 minutes. This is part of life. Life is take the things as they come and solve problems and not to worry too much about them. No?
And with the repair almost ready, the attention of the team is diverted back to the upcoming challenge.
It's duck weather. If we're ducks, we'd be very happy. It's raining, but it can only rain so hard for so long. So I think actually it'll decrease over the next hour or 2, which will make it easier to see when we're going down the river in the boat. Because if it's raining really hard, then you can't see where the river stops and the sky begins.
And visibility is key today as the group prepares to navigate down 14 kilometers of white water on the River Ara. And Antonio wants to make sure that his lions know the risks.
We had a few times when people were not daring to do it, or they went immediately to see the padre for a blessing before the event, because you have to sign an application form saying danger of death, and you have, before the guide accepts take you, you have to sign this form that you accept that risk is death.
And as the lions arrive, that's the first thing they do: sign a disclaimer form in case they don't return from this challenge.
It's all necessary. When you go over the boat, over the side, there are rocks. And none of us are good looking enough to make it as models, so we need our heads.
We nearly had a very bad accident, drowning in a canyon, and basically we realized you need to know what to do in this situation. It's the great thing that the professional mountain guys, I will never do this, what I do, unless I have one of those. We had avalanche, we had flash floods in canyoning, we had rocks coming down. You don't know what to do unless you have this. So I would always want to know if that person can be moved. It's better not to move him, so the doctors are essential.
And with wetsuits on, the experts take the men through the workings of keeping afloat.
The most important is this, because there have been a few accidents in the past when
This is the most important thing, as you explained.
It's really good that today these guys are in command on each of the boats. I was once in a rafting exercise where there was no one in command, and that's the most dangerous situation when you are in trouble on the water and different people give commands, right, at the same time, and nobody knows what to do.
And sometimes you say forward, left or right, or you? No.
We had some accident, people have, in a way, broken a leg or a foot, because I mean the water really is rushing very fast and you don't see the rocks which are very under the water, so it's very dangerous for the back, for any bone. So the rafting can be, in a way, it looks much safer than the canyoning, but really I would say rafting we had the worst injuries so far. No?
After a quick warm-up, the group's ready. They pick up their boats and head to the water.
Okay, you can sit in the boat.
And so they begin their challenge.
The people who like sports, the challenges, people who even professionally succeed, because some people are terrified of failure. No? They don't take risks. They don't go to play a tennis match, a football match, or do a particular task because they might fail.
And it's a baptism of fire as they head into the first rapids and the team gets a taste of the waters.
Yeah! Yeah! Stop!
To be able to succeed, you need to fail. You need to try and then realize you are not trained enough, you are not having got the sufficient qualifications or experience or strength. I think the sports is very good for professional life, because when you learn from other people, when other people tell you, well, you are ready to do this, you have to try. You have to lose that fear of mistake.
Yeah! Yeah! Ah! Ah! Yeah! Vamos! Vamos!
The people who win a match is because they are, in a way, brave enough to try and train sufficiently to do so. And in professional terms, the same. No? We need to put into practice that we can always achieve more than we think.
The lions are in deep waters. 7 kilometers into their challenge, they are now at a crucial junction of the river. But the teams have no choice but to keep paddling and stick with it.
So I feel the point of sport, effort, challenge, falling, but getting up is really the important thing on this, which I think is the people who succeed are people who also fail many times.
That was a close call, Antonio!
You have to realize that men come together, and this is only for men as such, but at the same time with the support of the families. I mean, people will not be there unless the wife had, in a way, encouraged them to go and sign the application, and many times are the wives. You know, I have to say that a number of times when the wives learn about this, they are the ones who contact me and say, I want my husband to go there, and they come. But when you are there, you see the role of a father, of a man, to help each other, to share, in a way, not only the joy, the successes, but also the difficulties, no? To open, nobody, I explained earlier that we have difficult situations. Nobody down a cliff, somebody is stuck in the ice, and people really sometimes risking having an accident to rescue that guy. And in a way, is it daring? Is it bravery, or is it sort of friendship? And it's a mixture of all this. And I think that when you talk in the dinner that we have, annual dinner, the wives many times remember these conversations that the husband has had with somebody else who has the similar difficulty with the marriage or the children, with the job. And many times to make that balance, that we, in particular those working in the financial sector or in the business sector in the city or in New York or in Singapore or Paris, that many times the life is only work, and the idea of the opens the horizons that you need to be a good friend, a good father, a good colleague, not only for not the individualism, but helping other people, leading other people, and to be strong, to be the fortitude, the toughness comes even in a moment of weakness somehow.
Thank you very much. The team behaved very well.
The Lions finished the 14-kilometer stretch of dangerous water in little over 2 hours and celebrate their success.
Wow, that was great. That was fantastic. The arms of the first rowers, the first arrivals.
With whitewater rafting finished, it's 2 down, 1 to go. To toast their success, Antonio's rallied his troops down from the battlefront to this peculiar landmark in the Pyrenean countryside.
It was a toss-up between the fish farm or a winery, and I think that most people would probably prefer to visit a winery than a fish farm. I've driven here, but I don't think I'm going to be driving back, so I'll have to hand the keys over to someone who is younger and more responsible than me.
But before they can get their hands on any vino, Antonio wants to show his men some birds.
Very nice, very nice, very nice.
And some of them are happier than others to meet the new recruits. With the lions thoroughly entertained and now thirsty, it's into the Somos winery and straight to the wine bar. But before that, a brief history of the universe. Dazed and confused, the group follow their tour guide, hoping to sample a bit of the product.
So, but you removed some of the big ones, but you said yes.
But after a long day, it looks like the men just want to see some wine. There's some wine. And there's loads of wine.
No, this is really very cultural. I mean, knowing about how the process of wine in this region, so it is very complementary to what the physical exercise, right? So physical, mentally, the process, and now we are going to taste the wines they make here, no? Look at this, I mean, fantastic sort of place to try.
Finally, they reach the sampling room. And after a quick introduction, the grapes are released. Even Antonio looks relieved. And after a long day of activities, the wine goes straight to the heads of the thirsty lions.
I tried to drink with moderation, seeing my other colleagues had to accompany. Somebody had to drive, so I drank with moderation. I saw especially Alberto and Miguel, who were really very participative about the...
Antonio, thank you very much for this wine tasting. It was fantastic.
I learned.
I mean, as an Italian coming from a family of winemakers, we really have a lot to learn.
Who knew that among the group there's a host of wine experts, all with a lot to say?
Out of the 3 wines, one was decent.
No, the white wine
was
for an appetizer.
It's
It's
good
sort of, it's fresh. It's
5
nice.
euros, I would
Yeah.
pay 5 euros
Yeah.
for it.
Okay, yeah.
The other 2, yeah.
I think you are too critical about this wine. I mean, I think you are too critical.
The annual Lions event is a lot about communication and interaction between people. And we find that wine is a catalyzer of communication between the people. It has a great quality of opening some things that are usually closed in people and of keeping those things open, and the communication channels go through those things.
And as the wine tasting goes on into the evening, the lions learn all they need to become connoisseurs of the humble grape.
I mean, last year, to show my ignorance, the wine I liked most was the worst. I mean, so I realized that the price of this is not the once we had this blind test, that it was a fantastic test. I mean, so thank you very much, and I hope that we will visit this place again. I think Miguel wants to come tomorrow. But...
And after an enjoyable evening, it's time for the guys to get some dinner and head back to base camp, clearly showing their enjoyment of their time together.
I suffered a lot on that occasion. I mean.
What God is calling us to is that eternal happiness of heaven. Then each of us can see those very imperfect or incomplete relationships, whether with a wife or with friends or with colleagues at work, all those situations which might seem far from perfect are the very instrument through which I can grow as a person. So what do I do? How do I react when I come upon difficulties? How do I accept the situation? How do I then resolve to make use of the situation, of that incompatibility, of those difficulties, of those misunderstandings, of the fact that this particular colleague whom I have to work with is somebody I find very difficult to deal with or to understand? How am I making use of that so as to grow in virtue, to grow in those good qualities, that ability to open myself to anyone, the ability to open myself and give myself, not just because I gain from it, but because I give freely, because I want to. That's to love as God loves us. Not because He gains, but because He wants to give.
As soon as we could, maybe when we were 8 or 10, we discovered a priest who was quite keen a sportive person, and he gladly joined us. For those who want, we get up earlier and he celebrates Mass in the morning. It's a very nice way of starting the day in a way close to God, and there's Mass and there's a talk he gives, we call it meditation, for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, about a particular human virtue. It could be friendship, it could be generosity, it could be laboriosity, you name it. He gives one of these talks and you start, I think, the day in a good way.
Alberto Raca, Alexander Turkan, Ángel Pintado.
Saturday we do mountain biking again with the Pyrenees. That is, in a way, being the fourth day, people are exhausted, and in a way is the toughest of all because you are every muscle in your bones, bruises, and that's where the doctors are normally called more for help, for massage, for protection, and more accidents take place from falling from the bike.
It's day 4, and the first task of the day is for Antonio to split his men into groups of different skill levels.
Well, it's a cycling day, and we're going up into the mountains. I'm really excited because cycling is something I do on a regular basis. And looks like we have good weather. I'm just worried about the terrain a bit. Last year, I actually went over my handlebars downhill.
And with the teams getting ready slower than normal, Antonio is in overdrive as he rushes to get the lions into the vans.
No, I'm just getting time to get people inside because we need to depart. The mountain guys are a bit nervous because we have quite a long trek on the bikes. The weather is good. Expected early rain about 2 p.m. and that's why we want to be really having finishing at that time. Igor, come. Alex, tell the others also to fill the tanks on the way there. When I was an officer in the military, I discovered that the soldiers, the officers, had a lot of good qualities. Of course, there were abuses sometimes of authority, but in general, they were there for a mission, for a task, for a concern for other people, and leading from the front. One of the things I learned in the military is precisely leading from the front. The authority, you gain authority by not shouting, as some people do, but being the first. Jumping down a ravine or climbing down a mountain or jumping from a helicopter, this is where other people follow the officer straight away. And this is something that the discipline you learn there is just by the example, that generosity, and that is the true authority that one has in business, in family. So don't ask somebody to do something that you wouldn't do first.
And it seems that word of the lions is spread in the mountains as local authorities arrive to issue a warning.
No, muy bien. Gracias, Gracias. Alberto.
And after a last look at the map, it's time to get cycling as the group gather to start the challenge. And it's not long before they're on the mountain trail.
I am afraid sometimes when I see people doing particular mountain biking in this extreme, I pray all the time because I have seen really miracles. People just falling a cliff and holding a branch. I think people are, some people have a particular guardian angel because really they are not particularly safe. I mean, and especially fast speed down the mountains, narrow paths.
And it's not long before Antonio's worst fears are realized. A lion is down, unable to move, and in urgent need of medical attention.
Well, we just started at the top of the hill here, coming down. And there was kind of a windy trail. We just come up a high one, so everybody's a bit tired. Started zooming down here, and unfortunately, coming around this corner is very loose. I was actually 5 meters behind Kevin, and yeah, he sort of skidded into some gravel, flipped over, landed right on his shoulder. It looked pretty painful, actually, from what I could see.
But we need to get the telephone numbers of Angelo. He has all the first aid.
Okay.
So Angelo, they both have an English telephone number.
Antonio's pretty worried. I mean, he cares a lot about us, and he sort of feels he's kind of he's a very caring person, and he worries about a lot of, you know, he knows he's responsible for us because he gets us to come, and then he also has that kind of personality where he does care a lot about people generally, but particularly about us, because I think he thinks his lions are his particular responsibility. So you can tell he's a very calm person, but you can tell he's pretty upset.
Where he can turn, go back to tell him where he can turn the van.
And after an excruciating hour, the support vehicle arrives at the scene of the accident. And miles from a village or hospital, the doctor is forced to treat the lion here on the rocky trail.
I always feel bad when somebody's injured, but this is part of the, and it was not really a difficult part, but it's dangerous to go fast in a corner, and we've been unlucky.
And after assessing the patient, the doctor delivers the bad news. The lion has a major break in his shoulder and he needs surgery. But with the nearest hospital hours away, they must act fast.
And somebody from behind you is gonna try to push from the spine here, you know, up to sit you up. Yeah. Okay, this will be the first thing. Okay. And put your hands as I'm doing. Okay. So you support the head. Okay. And you, somebody from my side. Okay. And grab him, hug him, as I'm doing. Okay. Vale. Entonces esto no se mueve. No, para. Coordinado. 1, 2, 3.
Vamos.
Vale, eso es. Vale, mira. Tú la mano así, ¿ya? Vamos a moverla.
If you've done it a number of times, you come to realize that the idea is the team, and you help other people, and you enjoy much more when you think about the others. Not that if you are only trying to be proud that you've done the more difficult thing, the longest thing, you carry the more weight. That is in a way not important. I enjoy that role in itself to get people to be part of a team without perhaps the character-wise could be sometimes very direct and somebody is very diplomatic. There are problems with the equipment. So I do enjoy it. It's busy, unforeseen events all the time. You know, there could be just a puncture, an accident of a vehicle, a guide who doesn't want to take someone up the mountain because he doesn't think he's safe enough. But the overall rule, I enjoy that is part. I mean, this takes time, but it's part of the enjoyment of helping other people to have a good time.
And with morale running low, Antonio tries his best to make light of the critical situation.
Normally he charges £1,000 an hour consultation, but to you it's free. I mean,
Cheaper than here, no?
It's here in the nature. I mean, that is a good idea. Even the best place to be injured. I mean, breathe fresh air, sun surrounded by friends. Your friends are around you. You have a puncture. No, but you have to put it right. I mean, not just with the fingers. If it wasn't the element of sacrifice, difficulty, sort of challenge, they wouldn't be attractive, I think, for many of us. No?
Now this hand has to be higher up there, right? So, and this you.
And with the lion about to be torn from the pack, Antonio hatches a plan to send off his lion with Pyrenean honor. The team salutes the fallen soldier and then get back on their bikes to follow the van at breakneck speed to tribute the man that stood among them. And they do so all the way to the finishing line.
He calls him freaky.
Today was probably physically the most demanding day. We obviously divided in 3 groups. I don't know how the other 2 groups did. But certainly for me was, and for several members of my group, it was the most demanding physically.
And as the lions talk, concern grows for the injured man, and Antonio takes the opportunity to bring them up to speed.
I don't remember, Marcus, it was about 40 minutes when we left. We were going quite fast downhill, and basically there was a loose gravel, and he braked perhaps in the wrong part of the curve, and then he skidded. But the problem is he fell very badly and on the shoulder. That was the thing, and it was the impact more than anything else. But...
And after a couple of beers, Antonio gives the order. It's time to leave. There's one thing left to do before the Lions can truly celebrate.
We all end up the last day visiting Our Lady and singing to Our Lady.
At Torre Ciudad Shrine, deep in the Pyrenean Mountains. And it's here the men come, year on year, to give thanks and honor to the Mother of God.
Oi, 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 oi.
We all wear a polo with this year Expedition 2019, and you wear it with pride, and you belong to this group of friends that you have in a way share with them for the last 5 days, no? Since Wednesday to that Saturday, Sunday.
And after praying and ringing the shrine's bell, the Lions climb their last peak to the bell tower of the church, overlooking the spectacular landscape. And as the Lions celebrate, the light begins to fade and discussion about the survivors' dinner circulates.
I think we deserve now a survivors' dinner.
We are going to have survivors' dinner. I think we will then judge you if you were welcome into the family of the Lions. Alberto is a veteran, but we will have to have a criteria.
What is the criteria, Antonio?
I think you were a bit rebellious. The new Lions have to explain the reason why they should be admitted into this club. And it's very nice to see that what they have seen other people do to them has been the reason why they want to come back. No?
Let's go. We are going. We're going. Thank you.
And so the Lions hit the town. And whilst the group's veterans look forward to some dinner, the new recruits prepare to pitch their reasons for wanting to join the pack.
To me, it's the joy to know that people want to come back. That is the thing to me, is that what is the strongest. And I would say it's not what they learned there, but this idea of sharing, of friendship, of giving thanks to God. For the Lions. There are some people here, there are some aspiring rookies who want to really be very powerful in the organization. Alistair, we have to really control power in this place. So please, shall we start from where Alexander, who is a veteran? So Matthias, you want to please start and we go?
And so, one by one, the rookies stand up and make their plea to join this exclusive fraternity.
We help each other, we support with prayer, with encouragement. This is a part of, I think, the Lions is we become a group of friends.
I don't know why you say goodbye, I say hello, hello.
And some try harder than others to guarantee their place in Antonio's Lions.
I say hello.
The new recruits have made it, and finally the guys can relax. The 19th annual Lions expedition is complete.
interested. When you've been a number of times, you want to do it again because you are going to be a reunion of friends that we haven't seen for 1 year or 2 years. When you talk to people in this environment of openness, that people open their heart one-to-one, not in public, many times 2 or 3 over a coffee or walking, that you realize, you learn from other people that they are perhaps in the 30s or younger or 40s or 50s or 60s, and they talk about their experience, what they has in a way made them happy, less happy, difficulties, and we all learn from each other, different countries, different situations. It gives you ideas, you come home, if not full, but with some suggestions that you can put into practice.
No, we are here just departing. It's always a very nice thing to having seen these friends and spend 5 days with them.
Mark is there.
We started this event with the idea of helping someone who having a very difficult situation from workaholic in extreme, not because he wanted to be, but because of the conditions and that he was working. So he was always with that in mind, to go away, explore nature, get in time, talk with each other. But in a way, although we were different, I mean, Catholic and Anglican, we were always helping this other person. So it developed from the day one that we wanted to have this element of spiritual. I mean, life is just the balance between material, spiritual values, family, friendship. You're asking when I was happy in particular when people have been kinder to other people and in a way happy that other people are having a good time at this event. Are you taking photographs?
Of course.
Of everybody?
Yes.
Including yourself. Somebody has to take of you.
Vamos!